Greetings once more, and welcome to one more tutorial video for Sinful Needs A4 HUD. This time we're going to take a look at the PSR controls, which are used to fit and customize the actual prim work as opposed to just the textures. First thing we're going to need to do is decide what we're going to work on. One of the things that I find winds up getting adjusted a lot is the mask on this particular set, on the Dark Seducer and on the Dark Temptress. And if you want to hide that mask or adjust that mask, you're going to need to set your attachment controls to head and mask. And since it's actually second to last, we're going to go forward to spine, and then we're going to take the sub part back to mask. So we've got head and mask. We're going to roll out the PSR panel, and we're going to go ahead and hide the mask. See, it goes to work pretty quickly, hides those prims, comes back and says it's all done. So hiding a part is just that simple. We may as well go ahead and hide one other thing that I get asked about quite often, which is how to hide the tail. Now, that's on the stomach attachment. So we go down to the stomach, flip to the tail, and then go ahead and again click the hide button. And there goes the tail. Now we are going to see about making sure that the nipples and the jewelry underneath the breastplate are properly adjusted. So we're going to need to be able to see them. We're going to go to the chest attachment, go to the breastplate, went right by it, by the breastplate, and we're going to hide that. Now while that's working, because it's a fair number of prims, let's go ahead and go to the shoulders and the wings and see about adjusting the size of the wings. I get asked all the time, how do I make my wings smaller, particularly by female avatars. So we've got shoulders and wings selected. Now we just need to decide how much smaller do we want to make them. To set that increment, we go to hold down adjust for 3 seconds, go to our PSR options menu, choose scale, and since quite often they have to be quite a bit smaller for the smaller avatars, particularly the petite females, let's just go ahead and make them 50% smaller. That's the 0.5 adjustment. Set our increment, and then hit smaller. We can see immediately the wings shrink dramatically. And this is much nicer than in the old HUD where you would have had to have set it to 10% and hit the button 5 times and wait for 5 changes for it to make this one jump. So the new increment values are certainly going to make a lot of adjustments go faster with the version 2 HUD. Okay, we can see now that the chest attachment is done, so while the wings finish their job, let's come back around and take a look and make sure that the nipples are positioned where we want them to be. Looks like they're pretty close, maybe slightly out of line. So let's go back to chest. Go to nipples, and we need to make a very small adjustment. So let's hit our adjustment button to bring up our menu, choose PSR, position, and let's set that just for the smallest increment, 0.001, and then come down here and click the right button, which in this case is going to move them further apart. We can see from the indicator that they're going to work. You can see probably the prims moving. They don't have to move very far. Just got to slide over a tiny bit to get lined up. Now, some people aren't fond of the prim nipples, and you could, if you wanted to, hide them through kind of a little cheat. If you choose a texture group that has an uneven number of textures, if you page back, the last several textures are going to be transparent. So if you wanted to hide the nipples, you could leave it set. You set your class to nipples, and then choose one of those transparent textures, and you'll see that it would make them disappear. Now, for that to work out really well, you'd have to then go and adjust the piercings back into the body so they look like they were overlapping the skin. But it's something that I have been asked on occasion, so it's worth mentioning. And we're going to set this back to a flesh texture. I believe this is the one. No, it must have been set at that dark one right at the beginning. There we go. And now the chest is done making all of its changes. You can see now that they line up really well. We've got some of the piercings here that we can hide if you want to change which layers are visible. Those are the bars. And then piercing 2. Is the rings. And that leaves just the shields. And of course, piercing 3 is going to be those shields. And you can bring back, of course, any of those layers that you want to keep. And that pretty much describes how the PSR panel works. There is one other thing worth noting. If you are adjusting whole attachments, like let's say for some reason we want to adjust these upper arm attachments, and you move them up, first of all, let's set the position increment to something that we're actually going to notice move. PSR, position, let's do 0.1, that's a big jump. And then you make the adjustment. Let's say we want to move those up the arms. You'll notice that even though the light briefly flashed like it was going to make a change, we didn't see anything move. Unfortunately, sometimes when you make a script executed position change of a whole attachment, it doesn't always make the viewer refresh properly. If something like that happens, try right-clicking the attachment, and you see all I did was right-click it and it jumped up to the position. It's going to be the same thing on the other side, and that will force a refresh. Yep, now we're going to move those back down, and you see we got the same circumstance. The light flashed, but we didn't see a movement. And there we go, we right-click and we refreshed it, and both of them moved down like they should have. That's a glitch that hopefully will be corrected sometime soon. I don't actually know for sure if it still persists in Viewer 2, but it definitely still persists in anything based on Viewer 1, 2, 3. And that does it for our work with the PSR panel today. If you have any other questions about the HUD in general or about any Sinful Needs item, please feel free to IM me. That's Galathir Darkstone. I always respond to my IMs. If I'm not available when you send them, I will respond the very next time that I'm at my keyboard. Thank you for your time. Stay sinful and have a great day.